Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Man, it's first of all, it's really, really good to be here with all of you. And it's funny because Jay came up to me like 5 minutes ago and said, "Hey, man, how you feeling?" And I was like, "Honestly, Jay, I feel pretty terrible. I feel exhausted today." Right? Jay knows the whole story because I was texting him the entire time last night, but I had a little bit of a rough evening. I got this electric car from San Diego Airport to rent that. I don't like electric cars, but it was like $60. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. And I drove it out here. And the first problem I had is I didn't understand how to charge it. Like I was trying to look on maps and trying to figure out where to go, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I got to one, and then it was the wrong like plug-in, so it wouldn't work, and it didn't fit. And there's a guy next to me who clearly knew what he was doing, so I felt really judged. And it was just kind of a mess, right? And then like 5 minutes after that, I had a flat tire. So now I got to call Hertz. Now they got to send a tow truck. And then I had that little timer. This is when Jay got the text. They send you that little timer that's like your tow truck will be there in 60 minutes. It got all the way down to 12 and then reset to 60. I called Jay. I was like, I might go to jail tonight. Please be ready to bail me. If you're really a friend like you say you are, can you be ready to bail me out? I thought it was going to go there, right? So I didn't get back to the hotel until like 11:30, midnight. So all the stuff that you're about to see is a little bit late night thoughts on leadership. I think that's what we're going to call this one. But it's funny because with my personality style, Jay told you that I was a high air traffic control, right? And so I like to plan everything out. And so I was laying there half awake at 11:30 at night, which in my time zone is like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was trying to write everything out because that's the way that I usually speak. It's the way that I usually present is I like to have a plan going into things to the point where even the jokes are scripted. Like I know what I'm going to say, right? When you said air traffic control God the other day, I was like, yes, that's me all day long. And I was sitting there and I was typing this all out on my laptop and God just spoke to me. He was like, don't do that. I was like, don't do that. Because if you want to go in there on some entertainment stuff, and be captivating and energetic and tell jokes and everything. Jay can do that better than you can, so you don't even need to be in the room if that's what you want to do. He was like, you need to go in there and wake some people up. I was like, I didn't want to be the bad guy, but if that's what you want me to do, God, okay. I was like, what do you want me to ask him about? Like, what do you want me to tell him? And God was like, you need to remind them that there will come a day where they're going to meet me one-on-one. And they need to know now how they would like that conversation to go. And when Jay talks about self-leadership, that's the way to put it in perspective. Because leadership has no point if you want to live a worldly life. I figured this out literally yesterday as I'm sitting in that car, stupid car, while I'm waiting for the tow truck to come, right? I'm scrolling through Instagram and I saw somebody who is less talented than me, less hardworking than me, with millions and millions of followers and millions of dollars. And I sat there and I was already irritated. So like I saw that person's profile and I was like, why are you so successful? And then we're all like trying to work to get there. And you just, it's like you woke up one day and it was there, right? And I was thinking like, why do I even try? If you've ever felt that way, say yes. Yes. We've all felt that way, right? Why do I even try? You see somebody, you're like, they got it figured out. Why am I even doing this, right? And I realized that's actually not a completely illogical way to think if you think that everything stops when your life on earth stops. But if you say, you know what, I'm going to have to talk to God one day and he's going to have a conversation with me, what do I want him to say? What do I want that conversation to be like? What do I want that to feel like? Now all of a sudden your results here that you get right now, it means a little less. And the way that you move and the way that you operate and the way that you interact with people and the effort and the intention that you put into every single thing that you do, now all of a sudden that means something, right? So the first thing that I want to start with today is just write that question down. When I meet God, how do I want the conversation to go? And even if you're not a believer, like when you get to that place where you feel like, okay, it's all done and it's time to meet the person who created me, the thing, the energy, whatever that is for you, that I came from, what's that look like? What's that conversation look like? And if you're a believer, do me a favor, don't write anything like basic. Don't write, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I just looked at Jay. Don't do that. Like for real, what's he going to say to you? Is he going to say, hey, I'm proud of the way that you poured into other people? Is he going to say, I'm proud of the way that you spent time with your kid? I'm proud of the way that you filled up your fountain. Is he going to say, hey, you probably could have done more in this area of your life. Hey, you let some people down over here, right? Think that through at a level of depth that's a little bit more than just what we're supposed to say, right? When you meet God, how's the conversation going to go? Think about it in every area of your life, every aspect of your life. What do you want him to say about the way that you were a leader? What do you want him to say about how you led yourself? What do you want him to say about how you led others? How you led your family? What do you want him to say about the potential? Both the potential that you had and fulfilled, and the potential that you had and did not fulfill. How do you want that conversation to go? When you look at him and he looks at you, do you feel proud to be there? Do you feel scared? Do you feel ashamed? What's that conversation like? I'm going to give you all maybe 30 seconds to write some of that stuff down.
Another electric car, or what did you do?
I tried to not. I really tried to not. So I had to take it to, I picked it up from the San Diego airport, and then they had to tow me to Ontario because that was the closest one that had a Hertz there that was actually still open. So they towed me out there, and I got to the counter, and I was like, first of all, the manager was like, I don't know if we can do an exchange here. I said, you're doing the exchange, or I'm sleeping on your floor. You tell me, right? And so they did the exchange, and I went to the agent or whatever. I was like, I don't care how much it cost. I will pay you to upgrade. And he looked so, like, I really believed him because of the way his eyes looked. Like, he was sad for me. He was like, we're out of cars, bro. All we got TVs. I was like, okay, as long as this one has 4 wheels that work, it's okay. It's okay. So yes, I did get it, and fully charged, yeah. Like low-key, I'm not trying to go anywhere today, so I can just take it straight back to the airport and not have to do it. Like, I'm just gonna coast in there. I ain't going to the beach, I ain't doing nothing. All right, how we feel? We got some stuff written down? Good. So as we talk about this concept of leadership, I just want you to keep that question in the back of your mind, because to me, that's what makes it make sense. I'm not that good of a person just intrinsically. Like, I wasn't born just wanting to be a blessing to the world, just feeling like this is why I'm here. Like, I didn't get that strike of inspiration just from birth. Like, I can logically make sense of, I'm gonna live my life, do what makes me happy, and everybody else will do what they do, and it is not my problem, right? I can make sense of that. But then when I think about, okay, now when I have that conversation, now leadership becomes important. Right? So just keep that in mind as we go. You know, when I was sitting there last night, I thought about the name of this event, right? Amplify. And it's so cool because I looked up the definition. I'm a big fan of definitions because I think that if we don't come to an agreement on what it is we're actually talking about, it's very difficult to get anywhere with that conversation. And so I looked up the definition of amplify, and it is literally to make more. To increase, to grow, to develop, to make more. And what's crazy about that is you can't make more of something that doesn't already exist. Like, you got to start with something. And I think the problem with leadership is that a lot of people think that it is avoidable. And that was me. I thought it was avoidable. I thought if I just take care of me and I pour into me and I just live my life, live my best life, then everybody else, they'll figure it out. It's okay. It's not my problem. Doesn't matter. Right? Leadership is avoidable. And then I started coaching gymnastics. I started the sport when I was 10 years old, and I started coaching when I was 14. I actually wanted to start competing in the sport, and my parents couldn't afford it. So I got a job coaching at the same gym that I competed at so that I could pay for my own meet fees, uniforms, stuff like that. And when I started coaching, I went to this camp out in Tennessee, and it was cool because every week a new rotation of kids would come through the camp, right? And there was this one week where we had a kid who was supposed to stay there for 2 weeks in a row. And so camp started on Sunday, went through Friday. Saturday's the only off day. So if you're a camper that's going to stay multiple weeks in a row, you just hang out with some of the other campers and you have a weekend counselor for that Saturday, right? And we had this kid, she was 9 years old, and she was supposed to be one of those 2-week campers. And we get a call on Sunday, so the very first day of that second week of camp that she was supposed to be there for. And I want to paint this picture. Like, this is a innocent 9-year-old girl. Like, she's done nothing wrong in her life, right? And we get the call in the office, and it was her mother in tears saying, my husband just died. Her father had been in a car crash that first day of camp and passed away. And so now we got to get ready to take this kid and drop her off with her mom. She has no idea what's going on. Like, we're having the morning meeting before camp. Camp starts at like 2 p.m. We're meeting as a staff at 10 a.m. to have this meeting about the week ahead. And then we get that news at like 9:45, right before the meeting, that this kid's father just died. And now we're sitting here trying to think about the whole week of camp. And now we also are managing this kid. We're giving the mom instructions. Here's how you can come pick her up, come through the gate this way, do this. And we know it's like a countdown. It's like a timer. 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. That mom's going to show up and that kid's life is going to change forever and it's never going to be the same. And we sat there as a staff and we had a big conversation about, you never know when things are going to change in your life and you got to be present and take advantage of the moment. And all those are amazing qualities to have and amazing things to think about. But I could not stop thinking about, what did that kid see from me during that week prior that she was there? Did that kid watch me lead in a certain way? Did she watch me go through any type of adversity? Did she watch me have something happen to me that I wasn't happy about? Did she watch me go through anything? Did she watch me interact with another person? And did she take anything from those interactions that maybe will make her life that she's about to go through hell? Is it going to make it 0.1% better? 0.1% easier, 0.1%, she's going to be better equipped to handle the situation that she's about to go through, the most challenging moment in her life. Is she going to be just that much better equipped to go through it because of the way that she watched me maneuver throughout the world? And that's leadership. And I think that oftentimes we have this vision in our head of leadership as being, well, that's the person that's at the head of a company or an organization, or that's the person who's on stage, or that's the person who's doing this thing or that thing. And the reality is leadership is simply being an example. Leadership is just the people that watch you. What do they get out of that? What do they get? When people look at you, what do they learn? When people watch the way that you interact with the world, what do they learn? And does it help them? I promise you, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what position in society that you hold. It doesn't matter what job you are. It doesn't matter if you have kids. It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's looking. Somebody's watching. And when I go to the gym and I'm like, I don't really want to do this last set, somebody kind of caught it out of the corner of their eye. It's like, okay, the big jack dude doesn't want to do this, so I guess it's okay for me to slack off too. Somebody saw it. Somebody saw it. Somebody saw it. And if somebody's seeing it, then that means I can't let them down, because then when I go to God one day, I'm going to have to be like, hey, I know I could have, but I chose not to. And somebody else suffered because I chose not to. Somebody else didn't achieve their potential because I chose not to. Somebody else didn't do all that they could do in this life. They didn't pour into the people around them because I chose not to pour into myself. And fill your fountain. Oh, I wish Doc was here.
Yo, that's what he said. He texted me last night. He said, I'm coming in that room. I wish I could see you with me.
Yeah, so let's define leadership, right? I think we can all kind of agree we're all leaders, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. You're all a leader in some way, shape, or form, in some capacity, right? Because it matters what people learn when they watch you. So what is leadership? I looked up the definition last night. This is from Webster. It says leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. So in other words, leadership is the act of leaving, to which I said, that's really helpful. So that's not quite good enough for me. So I need to go find a different definition of leadership. So I looked this up. This is from McKinsey & Company. It's a big consulting firm. And they say that leadership is a set of behaviors used to help people align their collective direction, to execute strategic plans, and to continually renew an organization, right? And I want to substitute organization for any group of people, right? So I want to break this down kind of item by item here. Leadership is a set of, first keyword, behaviors. Leadership is not the way that you talk. Leadership is not the things that you say. Leadership is the things that you do. Leadership is the way that you exemplify those things that you wanted to talk about. Those things that you want to say, exemplify it, right? Exemplification is the best form of articulation. Talking is sweet, talking is great, especially if you can make it sound good. But when you exemplify it, now people know that you mean it. And now people take it more seriously. So leadership is a set of not words, it's a set of behaviors. It's used to help, all right? We're going word by word. If your behaviors don't help, even if they're good behaviors, but they don't help, it doesn't matter. Your behaviors should move the needle. If your behaviors are just good for the sake of being good, for the sake of looking good, for the sake of feeling good about it, but they don't move the needle, if it doesn't help, not leadership. Help what? People. Leadership is not acting in such a way that a company becomes better, a thing becomes better. It's acting in such a way that people become better because of the way that you modeled it. Your behaviors help people align their collective direction, right? If you are behaving in a way that is helpful to people, but it's helping a bunch of different people in a million different ways, and you're not leading them to a aligned goal, it's helpful, it's impact, but it's not leadership. We got to take them to a specific direction, right? Execute strategic plans. So that one I like because it means that the people that you are leading have to get results. It's not enough for you to get results. So first you got to get results for yourself. Second, you got to get results for other people, right? Like when I was coaching gymnastics, I couldn't say as an assistant coach at the University of Michigan, hey, I'm behaving in a way that's really helping people to align their collective direction, but they ain't getting any results. Like they bought in. Yeah. They're happy about it. They love me as a coach. But we got last in the Big Ten. I can't say that. That's not leadership. I'm going to get fired, right? And to continually renew an organization. I like that one because it says continually. Leadership is not something that stops. Leadership is not a one-time event where you do it and then you're done. It's not a one-time event where you can act in a certain way one time and then contradict those actions the very next day. Because what happens as a follower is now I look at you as a leader and I say, I don't know if you really believe in what you just said because you just did it in two different ways. You did it once, but you didn't do it again. So now you're making me suffer because I can't go down this path and this journey and this walk with you because now I don't even believe, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't believe in it because I don't think that you believe in it, right? So there's the definition of leadership, and I want to just highlight help people. That if of all the things in this sentence, help people is by far the most important thing here. Write that whole definition down. Write that whole definition down if you haven't already. Leadership is a set of behaviors used to help people align their collective direction, to execute strategic plans, to continually renew an organization. The reason that I put help people in red there is because I feel like there's a lot that's going on in that definition. I think it's important to break it down word by word, line by line. But at the end of the day, the most important thing, if you were like B, I can only pick one. Like I can only focus on one thing. What is it? It's to help people. It's to help people. That same gymnastics camp that I was at with that 9-year-old that I just told you about, we had, I think it was later in that exact same summer, we had this 7-year-old kid who was just a terror. Like, talk of the coaching staff. And she had an attitude about everything. She didn't want to do anything. She didn't want to work. She was super negative self-talk too. Like, she was like, I can't do it. I don't even want to do it. I don't even want to be here. And the whole coaching staff, it was like we blacklisted her. It was like, don't even work with this kid. Don't even try and mess with this one because she's just going to give you attitude and she's not going to do anything anyway, going to make you have a miserable experience as a coach. Don't even worry about it. And that really irritated me because I was like, no, this is a child. Let's see what we can do to help her, right? And so she was learning a cartwheel on beam, and that was like the biggest thing that was giving her trouble that week. And she kept falling, she kept falling, she kept falling. And every time after she fell, she'd go cartwheel. And she didn't even really try. It's not like she got up to the top and then she wobbled and she fell down. It was just kind of like if I asked Jay to do a cartwheel right now, he's just going to go like, it was one of those, right? It was one of those. It was one of those. No, but okay, you're not really trying, right? You're not really trying. So I went over there to her and I was like, what's going on? What's happening? I think people don't give kids enough credit. Like, I know she's 7 years old, but she knows what she's doing. So I was like, okay, what's going on? Like, why do you feel this way? She was like, I can't do it. That was all that she was willing to say. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, okay, well, let me ask you a question. I got down on her level, right? So let me ask you a question. Has anybody ever told you that you are really, really, really good at this? Like, you are super good at this? She was like, no. So, okay, has anybody ever told you that you can do whatever you set your mind to? Like, you are so hardworking and so amazing that if you really work hard at this, you can do it. Has anybody ever told you that? No. Has anybody ever told you that you are so special and unique and beautiful and incredible, and anything that you want to do, if you work hard, you can do it? She said, no. I said, okay, well, how about this? Let's start there. Let's start with, if you really want to learn this thing, if you really, really try as hard as you can, I think you're good enough to do it. And then the next one was a little better. Next one was a little better. Next one was a little better. Within 5 minutes, she learned the skill that for 6 days prior to that, we got Olympians coaching her. And they can't get her to learn a cartwheel on beam. Why? Because she needed to be led, not lectured. But instead, what most of us want to do is solve a problem instead of pour into a human. That's why I'm saying, if you can do nothing else in this definition, focus on helping people. And if you help enough people, people will follow you. How do you help people? You model that, right? So when I broke this down, right, Jay said I was going to give a step-by-step formula. When I broke it down, this is what I thought about, right? Number 1 is vision. Number 2 is strategy. Number 3 is intentional inspiration. So number 1 is vision. That means where. Where are we trying to go? Where do I want to lead people to? And by the way, all these formulas and concepts that we're talking about, it applies to you just as much, if not more, than to anybody else, right? If you want to lead somebody somewhere else, if I want to say, hey, everybody, this is where we're going to go. If I'm a CEO of a company or an organization or a sports team or anything else, and I say, hey, this is where we're going to go, I have to be able to paint that vision for them. I have to tell them, where are we going? Specifically, they got to see it. And for you, if you want to go somewhere in your life, it's the exact same concept. Where specifically can you see where you want to go? Right? Number 2, strategy. That's the how. How are we going to get there? I know where I want to go, but what's the path? What's the roadmap? What's the blueprint? How am I actually going to get there? Don't wing it. And then number 3, intentional inspiration. That's the why. But it's not just inspiration for the sake of feeling motivated. It's intentional. I want to go here. Here's how I'm going to get there. Let me get motivated to do what's required to go down this path that I've set before me. We're not just going to be motivated for no reason. We're going to be motivated to do what it is that we set out to do. That's intentional inspiration. And all of that is going to be to the power of your commitment. Because if you're not committed, you might do some of these things for a day, for a week, for a month, but it's not going to be for as long as is required. So how do we do all that, right? We already talked about exemplification is the best form of articulation. If you want to lead other people, you have to be the example. By the way, if you want to lead yourself, you also have to be the example. You got to be the example to yourself. Because what you can't do is say, okay, where, so vision, then strategy, yep, and then inspiration. So where? I want to go here. How? I need to wake up at this time of the day. I need to work out this amount of times. I need to do this. I need to do these affirmations. I need to do all these different things. And you wake up and you don't do any of it. What kind of example do you set for yourself? How are you leading? Where are you leading yourself? Because you're talking, that's why this definition is so deep. You're saying that you want to lead yourself here. Your behaviors are saying you want to lead yourself here. You can kid a kid, you can fool a fool, you can con a con, but you can't lie to yourself. So if you say one thing and you do another, your body, your soul, your mind, you know that you're actually taking yourself down the wrong path. So exemplification is how you lead others. It's also how you lead yourself, right? If exposure elevates expectations, and who agrees with that? Like if you get exposed to better, you start to expect better. Raise your hand if you agree with that. Okay, good. Keep your hands up if you think that on average you get what you expect. Like whatever you expect to get, you're probably going to get it. Hands up if you believe that's true. Okay, good. So if that's the case, it is our job as leaders to expose our followers or ourselves, if we're doing self-leadership, to excellence. That's our job. We do that through our behaviors. If what you do is excellent, you will expose people to greater. than what they ever thought was possible, and then they will change their behaviors in accordance to that. I remember when I started working as Eric Thomas's agent, right? He charges, at that time, it's doubled now, but at that time, he charged $100,000 as a speaking fee. So you get paid $100,000 to go up on stage and talk for 45 minutes. I thought he was lying. I didn't believe it. I literally thought it was something that he said on camera to make it sound better, like pump up the brand, right? And then I became his agent, and I started seeing the wires come in. People had to wire us $50,000 to sign the contract. That's for us to do nothing. That's just to reserve the date on the calendar. If you want the contract signed, you wire us $50,000. The other $50,000, by the way, is due before he shows up. Like, he doesn't speak and then get the other 50. You show up and then you get the 50 and then you speak. I was like, my parents never made more than $60,000 in a year. This dude just made 145 minutes. But now all of a sudden, guess what? That $60,000 in a year that my parents had made, that was the exposure level. Therefore, that was the expectation. Broken, gone. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm exposed to better. Now I can expect better. So your job as a leader is to expose yourself and expose others to more, to better, to greater, to excellence, right? All right, so let's break this down step by step. Step one was vision. Are people still writing? I'll give you a second. I'll give you a second. Step one was vision. It's the 3-step leadership formula. Vision, strategy, intentional inspiration, all moving towards excellence in your behaviors, modeling it, exemplifying it for yourself and others, right? So vision, how do we pull that off? How do we figure out where exactly we're going? We need a few things. Number one, you need clarity on where you start. If you have a GPS in your car and you go out there and you type in the exact coordinates of where you want to go, I know I want to go to this exact address, but there's something broken in the satellite and they can't figure out where you are starting from, it can't calculate a route. It can't figure out a path, right? Because it doesn't know where you're starting from. So the reason that Jay started with awareness yesterday is because if you're not aware of who you are and where you are right now, then you can't make any adjustments. You don't know what adjustments to make. If you haven't gone through the assessment, you don't know who you are, you don't know your natural preferences and tendencies, that you don't even know what you need to adjust to get to where you want to go. And self-awareness, my guy Moose says this all the time, and it's such a deep quote. He says that self-awareness expires every day. Because who you are today, if you're playing the game right, should not be who you were yesterday. And who you are this year is most certainly not who you were last year. So if you're working with a level of self-awareness that came from a year ago, it's out of date. You got the new iPhone before you got the new awareness. You messed up. And that one cost you too. That was like $1,200. You got the Pro with the 3 cameras and everything. And the awareness is free. You just didn't sit down and do it. So re-up that awareness as often as you can. Check in on yourself. We spent a lot of time yesterday, or at least the time that I was here that I was able to catch, we spent a lot of time about checking in with you, about pouring into you, about reflecting with you. Listen to me. I'm all for, is where I make people mad. I'm all for the self-love, the self-care, and all of that. The reflection, the journaling, the meditation, do all of it. Do all of it. But if you ain't getting any results, then stop. Like, stop wasting your time. If it's not getting you results, then don't do it. And a result for you might be, I feel better. Okay, cool. That is a result, right? Let's write it down, okay? When I wasn't doing this, I felt like a 3 out of 10. When I am doing this, I feel like a 7 out of 10. Okay, cool. We got a result. But if it's not doing anything for you, then stop doing it. The things that you do, I talk about this in Bible study all the time. You should have some receipts for your belief, for your faith. You should have some proof. You shouldn't be out here talking about, I'm a believer, I believe in God, I'm a child of God, and you got nothing to show for it. Don't do that, right? So all these different things that you want, make sure that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that it actively leads you to where you want to go. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Number 2 is clarity on where you want to end, right? So that's the end goal. So that's the second point in the GPS. You've got to know where specifically you want to end up. I'm a huge fan of SMART goals, right? But you have to have it written down. You have to remind yourself of it constantly, right? So take a second right now and just think about, where do I want to be? I know Jay asked you this yesterday. Where do I want to be in 90 days? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And even if you write down the same answer that you wrote down yesterday, write it down again. Because you got to get in the habit of training yourself that this is what we do every single day. We visualize, we are intentional about exactly where we want to go. All right? It's funny, I went to the University of Michigan for economics and psychology, and it was a really interesting choice of degrees because economics is really the study of logical decisions. Everything in economics assumes that people are rational actors, and then it's how do people make decisions with that rationality. And then psychology is the study of how nobody on the planet is rational, right? It's like everybody's crazy, so now how do we deal with these two like extremes, right? But in my psychology classes, one of the experiments that they told us about was really, really interesting. They said that they had a room, probably not that much bigger than the room that we're in right now, and they would put people in one corner to start and put people, they would say, start here, and then they would say, walk. People would get really confused, like walk where? Like, just walk, right? And they would kind of walk around and they would move around and they were kind of confused, and they had a chair in the middle of the room, and people would like go up to the chair and kind of look around at it and like not know what to do with it. Some people stubbed their toe on the chair, and like it was just really confusing. And then they got another group of people, they put them in the same corner, the same chair was right there, the same obstacles were blocking the way, and they said go to that corner, and people went and walked to the corner. And they said that the human mind, when you know specifically exactly where you're trying to go, the obstacles mean a lot less. You immediately just start to say, okay, how do I reroute? How do I just get to the objective that I'm supposed to get to in the first place? But if you don't have a specific objective, now every obstacle looks like a mountain. Every obstacle looks like you can't get through it because you don't know where exactly you're trying to go, right? So that's why those first two are so important. Clarity on where you start, clarity on where you want to end. Number 3, you need clarity on your and your team's unique leadership style plus driving emotions, right? Leadership style, I think straight flight assessment. So if I'm a high air traffic control, I'm not going to try and lead people the way that Jay would lead people, right? Jay's super inspirational. Jay is super emotional. He can pour into people. Like you feel when Jay is talking to you, even if it's one-on-one. Like Jay can just make people cry. It's crazy. It's a superpower. I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't have that gift. You know what I mean? Like I can explain stuff. Like I can bullet point it out, step 1, step 2, but I can't make you cry with it. Like you might, but that's probably more on you than it is me, right? 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 Exactly. I'm not crying. You're crying. Right? So we have.
Trying to get back to the list.
That's right. I'm telling you, we can stick together. We can stick together. Right? So we got different gifts. So the way that I try and lead, if I try and get up here and act like I'm Jay, I'm gonna say, you're gonna be like, he's awkward. Like, why is he talking like that? Like, he looks weird. And if Jay tries to come up here and take you through a 12-point checklist, you're gonna be like, he's confused. Like, something ain't hitting here. Something's not connected.
Or you won't get to 12.
Right? We'll get to 7, we'll be gone. He'll do a keynote right there on 7 alone. Right? So we have different gifts. And the way that we lead should be authentic and unique to us. And we shouldn't try and copy somebody else just because this person is in a position of power, this person we look up to. Don't try and copy, be you, right? You got to know that about yourself. You also need to know that about the people that you're leading, right? If you're leading a group of people and you've got 7 air traffic controllers and 1 flight attendant, you're probably not going to talk to that group and interact to that group in the same way that you would if that was flipped, right? The style in which you communicate with those people is going to be completely different. So you've got to understand yourself, number 1, understand the people that you're trying to lead, number 2, right? Driving emotions, this is a big one. To me, I think about this as the flight assessment plus another layer. And let's actually walk through this together really quick. I want to do this exercise. You didn't even touch on it? Let's go. Let's go. So what I want you to do is write down the top 3 moments of your life. The top 3 moments of your life where you felt like I'm on top of the world, like this is it for me. Like this is the most incredible experience I've ever had. Give me the top 3. You don't have to share these with anybody. It's only for you to judge what those moments of your life are. But the top 3 moments where you just felt like this is what life is all about. And then when you're done, just go ahead and look up so I know that you're done and ready to move. Good. That one brought up some stuff with some people. I saw the looks on people's faces. That's good. You're going deep. All right. So keep writing if you're not done yet. But the next step is going to be for all three of those moments. I want you to write down the two or three emotions that you felt during those times of your life. Right? What are the top two or three emotions for each one of those moments?
Can I just have
Skipping ahead. A little pilot, you.
no, I'm just excited.
Why are you so excited? So the main two or three emotions that you felt during those moments. Do it separately for all three of those moments. And as you finish that up, what I want you to do is look at the emotions that you listed for all three of those moments. See if you have any in common between all three, or if they're close to in common. And then give me like a short list of two or three that were in common between all of them. Give me the short list of all these different events and all the things that I felt during those events. These are the three these are consistent. It seems like when I feel X, then I am having a great moment. Like this is the makeup of a really incredible moment in my life. Like this is the emotion that makes me feel the way that I want to feel, that makes me get what I want out of life, right? So give me your short list of two or three that you found in common. Good. So I call those your driving emotions. And I think that the challenge, especially in today's world where everything's just so fast, I think that most people build their lives around consuming those emotions rather than producing them. So if you think about it, if one of my driving emotions is peace, oh yeah, talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. If one of your driving emotions is peace, it's a lot better to find that at the bottom of a bottle than it is to set up your life in a way that produces peace from the inside, right? And so we got to get to a point where both for ourselves, self-leadership, and for everybody around us, that we can say, okay, how do I set up a life? How do I intentionally design something where I am producing these emotions consistently? Because that's what's going to make you avoid burnout. That's what's going to give you the energy that you're looking for. That's what's going to allow, and the crazy thing is when you do that for yourself, other people look at you and they say, what the hell is he on? Like y'all probably y'all look at Jay, you're like, what is he doing? Like, did he just come over here like in between sessions? Like what's happening? Because he's got so much energy. He's always smiling. He's always excited. Always moving around, bouncing around. That's called alignment.
Come on.
Right? So you got to figure out what is that thing? What are those emotions for you and how do you produce it? And then when you start leading others, you need to have that conversation with people. Like if you own a company or you are in any sort of position of influence, you need to be going to all the people that you talk to on a regular basis, take them through that exercise. Takes what, 4 minutes? We just did it all together. And figure out what those emotions are for them, because now you know what's driving that person. You might go to somebody and say, hey, I will pay you 10 grand a year more to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, I am motivated by money. That don't do anything for me. I don't feel any type of way about that. But you go find out those driving emotions, and all of a sudden it's like a cheat code. Like you got the grade rubric on exactly how to motivate that individual, exactly how to lead that individual, and exactly how to create an experience that they're going to be happy to be led by you. Because at the end of the day, when you can create an environment where people want to follow you, now you're leading. Fear-based leadership doesn't really work. It works for a little bit, but it's short term. But if you can have this type of leadership, now you got something. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Last thing, divine cosign, right? Divine cosign. Wherever you're trying to lead people to, whatever that vision is, you need your divine cosign. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And if you try to lead people someplace that is different from what you had the divine cosign for, it's also not going to work. You can do everything right, but one of the greatest tragedies in life is using all the right means to all the wrong ends. So I don't want that to be us, not in this room, right? We want to make sure that before we set sail on this path, that we've set everything up right. We know where we're starting, we know where we want to end, we understand the driving emotions, we understand the leadership styles. But before we set sail, I want to make sure, just check in with him. God, just want to make sure, is this where you want me to go? Right? And if it's not, he will tell you. And if it is, he will tell you. And then whatever he says, don't question it. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. This was when I first started working as ET's agent. And he had a big gig. It was a corporate gig. Thousands of people in the audience, probably 3,000, 4,000 people. Giant elevated stage, 3 screens, massive like Jumbotron in the middle, and then 2 of those screens on the side. And ET was up there on stage, and this was probably the 6th or 7th gig that I had traveled with him to. And he was up there doing his thing. I mean, if you've ever seen Eric Thomas speak, like, you know how passionate he is. He's up there yelling and screaming and moving around and jumping, and all this stuff is going on. And I was standing literally 30 feet off to the side, right? So if I'm standing here, the stage is here, ET's doing all this, audience is over here, 3,000, 4,000 people. And it was almost like one of those moments in a movie where the sound kind of drowns out, you know, and you're just in your head. And I was there, but I wasn't present. And I didn't hear a thing that ET was talking about. I could see him jumping around, but I wasn't really paying attention to it, which is weird for me because just out of respect and reverence, I always stand up and pay attention when he's speaking, right? Because he's changed my life, given me a bunch of opportunities. So I always like to show that respect whenever he takes the stage. But all of a sudden, just it drowned out. Like there was this ringing in my ears, and God was just like, why do you think you're here? Because I was the one that said, I mean, I know I'm this close to the #1 speaker in the world, but I'm here to help support him. I'm here because this is a business opportunity for me. I'm here because I like the way that he does things and I want to contribute to the mission. I'm not here because I want to do this. Because I'm talking to God like, I see what you're trying to do. Like you say, okay, why do you think I brought you this close and put you in this position and gave you these opportunities? Like, why do you think you've been up this path your entire life that has led you to where you are right now? Why do you think that I actually put you through all that? And I'm sitting there talking to God like, no, listen, I know you're like big man upstairs and all, but I had panic attacks as a 5th-year senior at Michigan, standing up in front of 18 people in a classroom saying, hi, my name's Brandon, I'm studying economics and psychology. I don't speak in front of people. I don't get on stage. Like, I don't do that. You got the wrong guy. Like, you're looking for him. You're not looking for me. God was like, why do you think I brought you here? And that was the divine cosign that I needed because I didn't believe in myself for that endpoint on the GPS to put that in. I didn't believe in myself enough to go onto my GPS and say, I want to speak, I want to do this, I want to train, I want to develop people. I didn't believe in me enough to do it. The beautiful thing is, if you believe in him, you don't have to believe in you because he'll work through you and he'll change you because he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So wherever it is that you're trying to go for yourself or for anybody that it is that you're leading, you need to make sure that you have that check-in with God and just say, is this where you want me? Is this where you want us? And follow that. Because when you do follow it, the obstacles will just move. When you don't follow it, the obstacles, they're just there. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Because as powerful and as strong and as incredible as every single person in this room is, you can't outdo God and his plan for you and his plan for the people that he led to you, for you to lead, for you to have dominion over, for you to take on that role for, right? So that's the last step in that vision piece. You've got to make sure that you have it. Number 2.
I'm sorry. I have a
Yep,
question
go for it.
Before you move on. Are we allowed to ask questions?
Of course. Yeah.
So, especially you and me knowing each other's brains,
how they operate as air traffic controllers. Like the biggest challenge I find myself is trying to break out of the type of person that I am in order to lead the other type of people. So, and I think probably everybody can relate to that to some degree of like using the strengths as well as the deficits. So when you say like I'm not somebody who motivates, inspires, you know, those kind of things, like that comes, that's part, is that part of this next one?
Nope.
Okay, and like that kind of comes with your role as a leader, is like being able to step away from the checklist, get these tasks done, do these things, and motivate you and inspire you to want to be better, to want to lead others. Like, where do you find that? How do you find that balance? Like, that's what I feel like I struggle with all the time. Like, I see Ted Lasso, and I'm like, I want to be that kind of leader. And then I just go back to my checklist. I'm like, but we got to get through this checklist. You know?
Yeah.
Like, where do you find that ability to pull in your deficits and your strengths?
Man, you know what's so funny about that? Jay, do you have your keys? You have your car keys?
No.
Anybody got car keys? Anybody got car keys? Here's what's funny, right? This is an ET ripoff. This is a Walmart brand ET, right? It's funny because when I first started speaking, I was 16 years old, and I didn't know that speaking was like what I was doing. It was just, I really wanted to help people. And I was really shy, like I said, I was super introverted. So I would look up ET videos. When I was 16 years old, I would just look up these ET videos. Such a crazy full circle life. And I would watch them, and then I would go to the like 4 or 5 people that I was leading. I was coaching them at that time. And I would remix the exact same presentation that ET would give to those kids. It was terrible. Like I was horrible at it. But that was how I got started speaking. So this is an ET special called Car Keys. I did not come up with this, but it will illustrate the point, right? What key is this for, Rob? What's this do? What's this open? A house? Can you start your car with it? No, you can't. What's this for?
Car.
That's for the car. Can you open your house with it? Nope. Okay, what is... That's the only 2 keys. Okay, that works. The rest of you can't open anything with. That works. So what you have to get good at is identifying what's a house, what's a car, what key do I need, right? So there's going to be some times as a leader where even though you are that inspirational figure for a lot of other people, even if you don't feel like it internally, if you are exemplifying and you're modeling that behavior of excellence, you're going to still be a leader no matter what, right? So what you got to figure out is, okay, I am that person to these other people that they're looking at me as this leader. Is this a time where I need to go back and be with them and lead through interaction with them? Or is this a time where I need to lead through getting stuff done and modeling that and them seeing the example of, hey, I am the leader, I am the inspirational figure here, but I'm getting it done too, right? And they can't always happen at the same time. And I think that balance is a word that has screwed a lot of people up because balance does not exist. Like, it's not real. You're never going to find, it's never going to be like, okay, I am perfectly balanced between my task-oriented stuff and my people-oriented stuff. Like, I'm equally as people-oriented as I am task-oriented. It's not a balance, it's a rhythm. It's, in this season, I need to be more heavily task-oriented. In this season, I need to be more people-oriented. And those seasons can last 60 months and they can last 60 seconds, right? And so our job as leaders is to become aware enough, not just of ourselves, but of the situation. So situational awareness to say, this instance requires this key, and this circumstance requires this key. Does that help?
Yeah.
That's full circle. What else?
Perfect.
You know, we trade keys.
There you go.
See?
There you go.
He has their own leadership style with their own key to unlock their. I love it, bro. Y'all gonna get me excited. Start jumping up and down and doing cartwheels.
I'll teach you one. I'll teach you one. All right, any more questions on this side of things or anything we've covered up until now before we move on? Good. All right. So, intentional inspiration. I switched the order around because I wanted to go in order of importance. And I think a lot of people over-index on the strategy when they should be thinking about setting up the play, right? Now you think about a football game, most of the work is not during the play. Most of the work is setting up the play, right? So we're gonna do strategy last. Intentional inspiration, there's really just 2 things that you need to know about this one. Number 1, of course, it is critical to understand where you're trying to inspire people to go. That's why we do the vision first. Number 2, you need 2 types of motivation. You need positive motivation, you need negative motivation. And this is, again, self-leadership. If you want to motivate yourself to accomplish anything, you need these 2 things. If you want to motivate anybody else to accomplish something, you also need those 2 things, right? So positive motivation is simply being pulled forward towards something that will excite you, something that you want, right? A desire that you have. That's being pulled forward. Negative motivation is being pushed forward. You're trying to avoid something that you don't want to have happen. You're trying to run away from something. And so the whole concept with motivation, to make sure that you never run out, is to make sure that you are being pulled and pushed in the same direction at the same time, right? And so to make that real for you, again, these psychology experiments, right? They told us about this experiment where they took a rat and they put it in this cage and they tied a string to its tail. And the other end of that string was applied to a force plate. So they could tell, based on how hard the rat was moving or pulling or trying to move forward, it would pull on that force plate and it would give a measurement, and that measurement was a proxy for how motivated the rat was to move, right? And so what they did is they set this whole thing up and they put some food on the other side of the cage. And so they said, okay, well, he's motivated to go eat the food. That's something that he wants. It's a desire that he has. So let's take that number. This is how motivated he is to get the food. Then they sprayed the smell of a cat behind him. So now instead of just reaching for something that he wants, he's also reaching for something that he wants while running away from something that he desperately does not want. And now that number more than doubles, right? Because the reality is many of us can want things, but we're not in enough pain to really want them enough to change, right? Like, truthfully, negative motivation oftentimes, and I don't always like that term because it turns a lot of people off, but it's more effective. Like, just straight up, it's more effective. If you go touch a hot stove, you're very motivated to move. If you're just like, I kind of want to go over there because there's food over there or there's something else that I want over there, you're a little motivated, but not like that, right? So we need to have both of these things. I'm a huge car guy, which is why I hated that EV so much. And in the car world, those four-wheel drive cars, like Lamborghinis and all that stuff, the reason why they're so much faster than anything else in a drag race is because the front wheels pull them forward, the rear wheels push them forward at the same time, right? Pushed and pulled in the same direction at the same time. So whenever you're setting anything up from a motivational standpoint, again, it's all about the setup and the environment. Set up the play. If you want to go after something, you need to have a crystal clear vision of what is going to happen if you do achieve your goal. You also need a crystal clear vision of what's going to happen if you do not achieve your goal. This is the consequence, and make it real. Because oftentimes that's going to push you a lot harder than that thing that you want is going to push you, right? So that's our intentional inspiration. And then last but not least, we're going to go through these pretty quick. I don't have too much time left. This is the strategy, right? So this is the how. So now that we know where we want to go, and now that we're motivated to get there, we need to figure out how do we actually run this play. And again, this is all self-leadership in addition to if you're leading anybody else. Number one, alignment with gift. You took the flight assessment. You should know what your gifts are, more or less, right? It's something that you refine and continue to discover over time. But you want to make sure that you are doing something that is in alignment with your gift because it will sustain you a whole lot longer. You can only grind it out for so long, right? And the people that you're with, you can only inspire them to grind it out for so long. So if you're leading people, you need to make sure that whatever it is that you are asking of them is in alignment with their natural gift, whatever that may be, right? Work ethic, I put it in quotes because I don't believe in work ethic. I believe in passion and discipline. And I think that the two of those combined make up work ethic. I think if you're passionate about something, then you don't have to be disciplined because you're just going to want to do it anyway. And I think if you're really disciplined, then you don't have to be passionate because you're just going to do it because you know that you need to. So if you have both of those in spades, work ethic will never be a problem for you. So work on putting yourself in a position, wherever you're trying to lead yourself to go, make sure it's something that you're passionate about, and make sure that you develop your discipline. And then whoever you're also trying to lead, make sure that they're passionate about it, make sure that you help develop their discipline. And this is something that is so funny to me because like a lot of people are doing 75 hard now. And Jay and I talked about this when he started his 90-day challenge, and it's like, it's not that hard. Like my bad if anybody's done it and like they hate it, but like it's not that hard. I had a buddy of mine who major entrepreneur, 8-figure guy, and he called me the other day and he was like, I want to start doing cold showers and ice baths because I keep hearing about all the health benefits and how it makes your mind strong and mental toughness and discipline and all these things. And he was like, I'm really nervous about it. I was like, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur if cold water scares you. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about, right? So work ethic. Figure out a way to develop the discipline and do it daily. Do that daily. You need a coach. I don't care what it is that you're doing. If you're leading other people, maybe that's you. Maybe you're the coach. If you're trying to lead yourself, you need somebody else to hold you accountable. You need somebody that has the qualifications. You need somebody that you respect. And you need somebody that's going to hold you accountable. If it's a coach that you don't really respect like that, you're not going to take their advice. If it's a coach who's not qualified, you're not going to take their advice. If you don't respect them, you might take their advice, but you're not going to be very accountable to them, right? So you need a coach that fits that criteria. And then as you are leading yourself to places, as you are leading other people to places, you need to make sure that you are that coach. So constantly check in with yourself. Am I qualified to be leading these people here? And then do my people respect me? Otherwise, they're not going to be very accountable to you. You need some peer pressure. I'm a big fan of peer pressure. I'm very much a contrarian. I like peer pressure. Peer pressure is great. If you have a goal and you just keep it to yourself, or you run an organization or a team and you keep that goal to yourself, like imagine, this is what's crazy, right? Imagine running a company or a sales organization and you say, I want our company to do $1 million this year, and you don't tell anybody that works for you. How do you think that's going to work out? Right? It's not going to work. So if you have a goal that you're trying to lead yourself to, if you have this destination that you're trying to lead yourself to, get an accountability partner. Get some peer pressure. Jump in. I don't know if I'm spoiling it, but Jay's app, I think you have the scoreboard functionality, right? Like, have a little competition. You got to have some peer pressure. Identity, I think it's really important to go from I do to I am. So whatever it is that you're trying to lead yourself to, start putting yourself in the reference of I am XYZ, right? So if Jay wants to be the next #1 motivational speaker in the world, he should be saying not I do motivational speaking, he should be saying I am a motivational speaker. I am the best motivational speaker, right? So building an identity around your goal is really, really important. You should have a deadline, preferably one that you cannot move. Ideally, you would want a deadline where, and the place I learned all this, by the way, was with sports. So with sports, if you think about it, I had some natural talent for gymnastics, so it was in alignment with my gift. I was super passionate about it, and the coaches made sure that we developed a lot of discipline, right? I had a coach who was a legend in the game, which meant I really respected him, so everything that he said, I made sure that I was going to integrate that into what I was doing, and I was very accountable to him because I respected him. I had a lot of peer pressure because all my teammates are looking at me like, okay, we're all grinding this out together. Like you can't lose, like you can't take a step back from us. You can't let us down. So I had the peer pressure. I had an identity because I was a college athlete. That's who I was. That's what I did. I had a deadline. Every competition, there's a date. I can't move it. I can't go to the meet organizer and be like, hey, can we not compete this day because I'm not ready yet? I can't do it. So I have a deadline that's immovable. And then I had a system. This is why y'all need a routine. I had a system that said, now it wasn't a system that I created. It doesn't have to be a system that you created. It might be a system that Jay creates or that your accountability coach creates, whoever that is. But I had a system that the university had designed to say, if you wake up at this time, if you go lift at this time, if you lift this much, if you eat at this time, if you eat this much and this type of food, you go train at this time, you train this much, you train this way, you'll probably get better. And it was a system where if I just showed up, I would improve. So write that down. What is your self-leadership system? What kind of routine can you set up in your life that incorporates some or all of these components right here, where if all you do is show up, you will improve? If you just do it every day, you will get better. I'll leave that up for a minute so you can see what those components of that system are. And there's more that you can throw in there, but these were some of the ones that stuck out to me where I said, man, if I got all of these things, I can't help but get better. You also got to think about this when you're leading other people, right? What's that system for them? I think oftentimes leaders, they over-index on their title as a leader instead of doing the work of a leader. The work of a leader is not showing up and inspiring people and then leaving, right? Like that's the fun part of being a leader, but it's not like really the work. The work is you show up with a blueprint and you inspire your people to walk through the blueprint, right? You got to have a system that supports it. All right, I think that's our last one. Yep, that's our last one. To the power of commitment. So I think this is the thing that ties it all together. I think all the systems are great. I think all the step-by-step blueprints are great. But I think that if you are not fully and truly committed to your obligation as a leader before you start leading, then it gets really, really difficult to really fulfill on that obligation. I lived in Nashville for 6 months, and I got a call while I was out there. It was from my mom. She said, "Hey, your dad's mom, your grandmother, she's not doing too well. I think you should come down here." And they live in Alabama, so it was maybe a 3 or 4 hour drive. And I went down there that day, and my dad had just 6 months prior to that lost his father. So my grandfather had passed just right around the corner, and now all of a sudden, grandma's not doing too well. And so she was in the hospital, and I drove down there. And I got to the hotel that my parents were staying at. And I talked to my mom first, because my dad was obviously he's one of those dudes that like never really cries, but you can tell when his energy is off, right? So I'm talking to my mom, and she's like, "All right, come on, get in the car. You and me are gonna go see grandma." I was like, What about dad? Like, is he not coming?" She said, it's too hard on him. He can't do it. Not 6 months out, he can't do it. He can't see her like that. She said, "All right, I'm not going to judge anybody's grieving process, you know." So I get in the car with my mom. We drive over there to the hospital. And we get there, and grandma, honestly, I mean, she's 94, 93, something like that. So she's not in amazing shape, but she didn't look that bad. I almost was thinking my mom kind of overreacted on the phone, like, okay, you're just being dramatic. Like, she's talking, she's conscious, she's awake, everything seems okay. We sit there, we talk with grandma for a while, probably an hour. It was a great conversation. And at the end of it, I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And we leave, we go back to the hotel, crash for the night. We get up the next morning, and my mom texts me. We're all three in the same room. My mom texts me, said, "Hey, your dad's going to go with you to see grandma today." I was like, "Oh, well, what changed?" She was like, "He needs you. Like, he needs somebody who's a little more, like, he needs the air traffic control, like, not as much emotions. He needs somebody who's just a little bit stronger, is not going to show the emotions right now, right? He just needs somebody to lean on." I was like, "Okay, I got it. I can be that for him." So my dad and I, we pack up, and we get in the car, we go out to the hospital. We walk in, go up the elevator, go to the room, and it was like the lights in the room were dimmer. Like, the colors on everything were dim. Like, everything was different. And we couldn't get her to wake up this time. She was completely unconscious, and she wouldn't respond. We tried to shake her a little bit, and we tried to talk to her, and we were doing everything that we could, and she just was completely unresponsive. And the nurse comes in, and she takes that O2 reading on her finger, and I looked at it, and my dad was kind of behind me, so I don't think he saw it, but I looked at it, and I saw like 72. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but you can't do that. That's low." And the nurse came in, and she was like, "This is end stage, and it could be, any hour, And so we sat there for a little bit, and maybe 10 minutes later, we see her breathing start to slow down a little bit. And she would take a big breath, and it would go out, and it was just silent. Silent for 5 seconds, no movement for 10 seconds. It would go for 15, 20, 30 seconds, and then she'd take another breath. And that cycle would repeat itself. And every time that she took a breath, it was like, okay, now there's a 30-second gap, then a 40-second, then a 50, then a 60. And for a split second, I saw panic on my dad's face, because he's a lot like me, and he wants to be in control. And for the first time in his life, he knew he couldn't do anything about it. Like, he knew what was about to happen, and he knew he was about to witness it, and he knew he couldn't go anywhere, and he knew he couldn't change it. And so we gathered around the bed, and we just talked to her. And I believe that she heard us, and she told her, how great of a mother she was. And I talked to her about Christmas at her house when all the kids would go over to grandma and granddad's place. Told her about, how I was gonna take care of her kid, and eventually, we sent her on her way. She took that last breath, and it's one of the first times in my entire life I've seen my father cry. And he hugged me right after. He walked around the bed. We held her hands as she went. And he walked around the edge of the bed, and he just hugged me while tears were rolling down his face. And he said, "That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it's also probably the best thing I've ever done in my life." And we got home that night, and I was thinking about what must have been going through my dad's head in that moment. Because he didn't know what he was walking into. When he decided that he was going to leave the hotel and go to the hospital room and visit his mom, he didn't know it was going to be the last time he ever saw her. He didn't know the kind of shape that she was going to be in. He didn't know that he was going to watch her transition like that in front of his eyes. But that phrase that he said at the end kept ringing in my head. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. He got to be there. He got to hold her hand when she went to go have that conversation with God. He was there with her. And I think that is the mark of real leadership, is when you can say, I'm going to do this, and I don't know what I'm signing up for, but I'm committed to it. I don't know how hard it's going to be. I don't know what I'm going to see when I open that door. I don't know what I'm going to see, what I'm going to encounter, what adversity is going to be there when I open that door to the hospital room, to the classroom, to the boardroom. I don't know what this is going to bring me, but I am going to see it through. And although it might be the hardest thing I ever do, to lead myself, to lead others through all the, I wish I could tell you it would be easy. Being a leader is the hardest thing you'll ever do, because it means that you have a whole different level of standards that you have to abide by. You have a whole different level of responsibility and obligation that other people don't have to worry about. But if you are willing to say, you know what, I don't know what this is going to be like. I don't know how much pain is going to be required. I don't know how much sacrifice is going to be required, but I know I'm willing to see it through. That's when you change your life, and that's when you change the lives of others. That's my time, y'all. Appreciate you.
Come on.